So I'd like to introduce our moderator today, Belinda Vey, Policy and Program Analyst, University of California Office of the President, Regional Representative to the Board of Directors of ACHA.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to our panel entitled Building Campus. Am I talking? Oh, there it is. Oh, God. I am so sorry. I have a really big voice. I don't need this, but I guess I should use it. Our panel, again, is entitled Building Campus Cross-Functional Partnerships to Address Food Insecurity. Again, my name is Belinda Vey. I am from the University of California's Office of the President, specifically in Student Affairs. What I'm going to do is allow the panel to take a few minutes to introduce themselves and give a short synopsis of how they are related to this title, and then we shall begin. So, Whitney, if you want to go ahead and start introducing.
My name is Whitney Boroski. I'm the Manager of Student Health and Wellness at Michigan Tech University that is in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, so we're about 10 hours north of Detroit. I've acquired some committee work. I'm the chair of our Food Insecurities Committee, and I've been in that position for the last 3 years.
Good morning. My name is Tanya Tatum, and I'm the Director of Student Health Services at Florida A&M University. And I'm so glad to see all of you here. We've run a pantry through our unit for probably the last 11 years, and so addressing issues around food insecurity has been an integral part of the work that we've been doing at our university.
Good morning. My name is Terrence Walker. I'm from Virginia Commonwealth University. I work within the Division of Student Affairs, and I'm the founder of VCU RamPantry. We provide in-need VCU students with emergency food that's healthy and nutritious.
And briefly, the goal of this discussion is to understand how best to bring more visibility to the issue of food insecurity, and how we engage administration and stakeholders about this issue. It is also to promote active engagement in this area. We are seeking, or the panel actually is seeking, to discuss the role of funding in in this space, and perhaps most important, engagement with students who, it can be argued, are the ultimate stakeholder. So first question, and any of you can take that, is how do we know the issue of food insecurity amongst students is a problem? That's easy, but what are some of the best ways to make the issue known to the administration, and why should this issue be important to the administration?
I think you need to speak your campus language. I don't think it's a secret on any of our campuses that students need resources around food insecurities. But I think you need to start to understand the language of your administration. And I think I'm from a technology campus, and that's numbers, and it's not just unique to us. But I think if you have a statement, they will back it up with prove it. So in our case, it's oftentimes where's the data, and then what are you seeing, and then what can you digest from that data.
One of the things that I think was real important for us is, one, we started showing pictures and using data also, giving numbers to our vice president about the numbers of people that we were serving, the quantities of food that we were distributing. You say 200,000 pounds of food a year, they start to take a look at that. In addition to that, it's become a real campus-wide concern. Florida's moved to performance-based funding several years ago. So the emphasis is not on how many students you have, but are your students progressing and graduating? Yeah. So there's very much a lot of emphasis on doing everything we can to make sure that there are no impediments to student success.
Yeah, and I second that. At Virginia Commonwealth University, what was helpful for us, I work within the Division of Student Affairs and University Counseling Services. So we had the contact among clinicians meeting with students who come in who are food insecure. So from that standpoint, we knew there was a need because students are showing up at student health and at counseling services with a need. The second thing that we've tried to emphasize or focus on is making a connection to the academic units at VCU for grad students, for instance, who are engaged in social services and who want to become social workers, to get them to take data that we get at RamPantry to use to when IRB approval to do research, to kind of flesh out some of the numbers. And in terms of getting buy-in support, at this point we've been able to show that there's a connection between students' academic performance, students' graduation rates, and how quickly they graduate, in food insecurity. So if you're addressing the need of food insecurity, you're actually helping your students succeed in a timely manner so they're not struggling to get by and dropping out.
You know, and I'm glad that how you're posing that, Terrence, because this goes to the next question, which is, what are some of the other departments or campus entities that officials might find helpful in addressing this issue? And I think that raises the issue related to cross-collaboration on campuses. So if you could speak to that, all three of you, that would be great.
I think it's something that everybody needs to be involved in, but I think a few of the bigger stakeholders definitely. On our committee, we have the Dean of Students. I think you always need a champion who can get to the higher administration and kind of have those conversations. So we have our Dean of Students that is a great advocate for us, but we also have folks from financial aid and dining services that are huge players on our committee, that they're with the students daily, they see these issues, and they're the ones that can have those conversations and share by word of mouth these resources. But I don't think it stops there. I think we need to try to get into every different department and every student group, just so the words and the information can keep being circulated.
I think on our campus, we certainly reach out and involved a lot of different areas. It's not a problem that we can address by ourselves. We have lots of referrals from our other student affairs departments, such as housing, financial aid, and our TRIO programs. So a lot of them help us with like case finding and helping to identify students that may present as food insecure, and they'll make referrals and make sure that they get connected with us. We get a lot of referrals from our student conduct office. And we have a lot of other partners that help us pull this off, because our moving and setup, they drive the big box truck when we go to make the pickups of food from our statewide farmers market, our athletics teams, our women's softball team, their championships, they're winners of them, but they come and they volunteer with our large food distribution. So we have a lot of partners across the campus that help us. Business and auxiliary services, I mean, and our campus food service operation, well, they're not allowing card swipe sharing, but they do assist us in a number of other ways. I'm like, okay, you can't do that, what can you do? And so we were able to bring them on board, and they are big assets to what we've been able to do.
Yeah, and we've done some of the similar things in terms of the partnership through dining services. While we have not had a system in place where we have sharing through the services, we did at least get dining services to agree to donate freezers that we use to store the fresh produce that we get from local farms. In terms of the buy-in, as you say, is so crucial. We've gotten buy-in from our community engagement department. We have students enrolled in what are known as service learning courses. They're required to do up to maybe 20 or 30 hours per semester in service learning. And many of our volunteers are actually coming from those academic units to the pantry to serve. And that's been beneficial to some students who lack public transportation to get out into the community to serve at other places. They're actually able to serve on campus working at the pantry. So that's been helpful. Another partner area that we focused on that helped us to get started in the first place was our facilities department. When a unit, for instance, my office, if we receive new furniture, all of our old furniture would go to a surplus facility on campus, and that would be sold to the public, and we didn't have furniture when we opened the pantry, so we were able to get donated furniture, shelves, and other items from VCU surplus to the pantry to meet that need, as well as buy-in from student organizations to help with food drives along campus. So the partnerships were so crucial within our community among faculty and staff, student groups, and different units that you would probably never thought of would actually be actively involved in addressing food insecurity, simply because they had resources that we needed, but we didn't have the budget to buy those items.
Thank you. Certainly a lot of good suggestions, particularly the one about facilities. Had not thought of that before. To that, how about engaging community opportunities? What role can the university play or your institution play in the community in this arena, and vice versa? What can the community itself play in helping you address this issue?
I think we're, in my institution, or at my institution, we're about 7,000 large. So we're a smaller institution or medium size. But in the 2 towns that surround our institution, we have 12,000 people total. So our students make up a huge part of our population. So I think in order for each of us to help one another, we need to educate both sides, because there's such a huge population there of our students. So
as supporting their hunger relief efforts for hurricane survivors. So that's been helpful to do that on that end. But as you say, the challenge for us is this communication piece to make people aware of the need of the pantry. And at VCU, we have what we call our Stall Street Journal, which is a journal that goes into the stall. So you have a captive audience. When you go into the restroom, it's the first thing you see. And we were fortunate to partner with our Wellness Resource Center, and they promoted the pantry when we opened to put that in the Stall Street Journal. So we were able to tell our community immediately, we have food insecurity, we have a need, here's how to link into us to support that needs, and it helped us with marketing internally and hopefully to work within our culture to make folks aware that food insecurity is a legitimate issue on campus.
The next question somewhat piggybacks on the previous panel we had with regards to student engagement. The question is, how important is it to engage the students when developing strategies to address campus food insecurity?
I don't think you're going to do a very good job without engaging the students. I think the students have to be engaged, and I think they have to be the ones crafting the messages and taking the initiative forward. We have a food access network, so in addition to the pantry, we have meal swipes, we have emergency meals, which are our meals that are available 24/7 at our police services area, and then we have our freezer meals initiative, which is all the leftover food from dining that's packaged using ServSafe guidelines and available to our students, and then we have the meal swipes program, which are on their ID cards. So we have a lot of moving pieces to our food access network. So we need to make sure that our students are able to champion that message forward. And I think without the students, we do serve faculty and staff as well, but our main population that uses the pantry right now are our students, graduate students.
At Florida A&M, we have had students involved from the very beginning. I think we use our graphic designer as a student, so they are really important in helping to craft messages to go out. We have lots of student volunteers, but we've tried to, do most of our work is in advance about trying to make it easy for students to access, for them to understand, get a message that they will receive. We try to make sure that we do as much as we can to reduce any type of stigma. So like I said, we have several different kind of food operations, so they can either come to the in-house pantry, they can do the farm share operation, we have a bread drop, we have, just a number of different ways in which they can come and engage and get what they need. We try to keep the processes as low-key as possible. Try not to out students. Nobody wants to come up to a desk and go, hey, I need food. So we really try to craft it in such a way, and that includes training your staff. Don't forget that, about making sure that we're not stigmatizing students in the way we might respond to them or whatever. But making sure that they have, and giving students some agency in the process. We have a sheet where they can check off what their needs are. We not only include food, but personal care items also, but they can say, I'm vegetarian, or I'm allergic to this, and this is what I like. And that way we can assist them, and they have some agency in that process, and they're not losing everything.
Yeah, and for us, it's been the same. The engagement has been crucial. We would not have a RamPantry without student engagement. We had students from Focus Inquiry Food for Thought class at VCU that created the logo for the pantry, a student who created the website. Students had food drives in the dorms where they were competing against one another to collect donations. Students worked with their fraternities and sororities to get food in. And students made the argument to administrators that there was a need for a pantry. So in addition to having our data, we had students giving their personal stories about how effective having a pantry was. I'll never forget the student that used our pantry years ago. We've been in existence for 5 years. We had a student talk about being first-generation college student. Her stepdad was in a low-paying service industry job. Her mom was unemployed. She worked as a waitress making less than $4 or $5 an hour. And she talked about what it meant to be food insecure and how it impacted her academic performance and what her goals were. Having those case studies, stories coming from the students was very helpful for us as support staff and administrators to justify the need of the pantry. And it's, I have to admit personally, it's been a stretching process for all of us when we talk about student use of the pantry, because we do get a lot of feedback from students. And it shows where we are culturally. I'll never forget, we received fruit and vegetables from a farm, and we had a student years ago complain that they received corn, and there was a caterpillar on the corn. And they said they received substandard food from the pantry. So we had to educate. We was like, wow, really? So we had to really work on educating the student about fresh organic fruit and vegetables. So when you come into the pantry, if you're a student growing up living out of a can, we're having to educate you what it means to eat healthy and what healthy eating is like. So those were growing moments for all of us, that we're not just simply giving out food, but we're actually educating students, utilizing the pantry, and becoming aware of the cultural dynamic and the world in which we live in now, where folks are used to eating out of cans. So I think all of us have gained something through that whole process.
I once found a worm in a corn. I was that student, so I'm just saying, I get it. Oh, there we are. Next question. How do we identify the students in need? How do we make sure the students in need understand they have resources available to them?
I think this is an ongoing process. I don't think it's a start and stop. we get new students, every 4 or 5 years, so I think it's going to keep changing, and you can do some of the baseline pieces like taking surveys, collecting these student stories, making sure you share them, but as it was said a few times this morning, that's not the end of it, that's just the beginning and how you do it, and I think you need to talk to students, and again, you need to have your student champions, your peers, bringing all these messages forward, and just different ways that the students want to receive this information. Try not to have a stigma attached to it. Do your best to make it very open and accessible to the students. An example of this is we have a Facebook page for our pantry, and we can't get followers on it. And one of my students looked at me very pointed and said, well, why would you like a food pantry page? That means that you would be food insecure. And I'm like, well, how do we get a message out to students that need this? They're like, we'll use the main university page, because anybody could like that page because they want information about the university, sporting events, and then put information about the Food Access Network resources on there. So then you're not stigmatized for liking a page. So, and then another example, I was talking to some students and I'm like, I don't understand why the cans in the pantry with the pop tops go so fast, and that all of these cans, we have beans, we have green beans for days, years, ever. I don't understand why those are still in there. And I had a student look at me and she goes, well, do you have a can opener? Yeah. And I said, I do have a can opener. So our friends from Housing and Residence Life donated a few hundred can openers to us. So I think it's all having these conversations, and sometimes just not knowing and having that conversation can give you really good answers.
As far as identifying students in need, like I said earlier, we just use a whole network of individuals on campus. I do trainings with all of our housing resident assistants and resident directors at the beginning of every year, and in another little refresher in January. I meet with all of our academic advisors, and I try to make sure that the people that are in the most contact with students are aware of the services and the supports that we have to offer them. But I'll be honest, I also talk to parents at orientation. We share with students at orientation also, but it doesn't stick. So we try, it's repetition. It's constantly being out there. We use OrgSync, so have established the Student Health Center as a portal on there, so we put information out there that all students get. Like I said, I use a student as a graphic designer, which helps, because whatever I would design would not go anywhere. Nobody go, that would be boring. But our biggest way of getting the message out is by word of mouth. Our students will say, hey, come over here. They've got this in the clinic, or they've got that, and oh, I heard there's sweet potatoes today, or whatever it is. And I think that has been probably the biggest way in which we have gotten that information out and identified students that are in need. I will also say that our international students have a great network. They're very willing to support each other. I mean, probably because they have the least familiarity with anything. So when one of them finds out about something, all of them will know. And it's really great. I mean, and we've been able to make some adjustments too. They don't like sugared cereal. So now we make sure we stock plain cornflakes. I mean, there's just, but it's that, that information that they get, and then they spread that and let us know, and we get that back. We also use GroupMe. We have lots of students to sign up for it, like our farm share operation we do every Tuesday. Like clockwork, we let students know ahead of time but what food's coming. Actually, one of my staff persons is here, Miss Jennings. And she's a fantastic person. She'll put a plate together of, what we have, and it helps students understand how they might utilize it. And we go from there. But online and word of mouth.
Yeah, definitely. I'm surprised at the word of mouth piece. RamPantry has been in existence for over 5 years, and when we started, we were worried about the stigma. And we saw the data that there's less of a likelihood of individuals using the pantry because of the stigma. And we were shocked that we had over 100 students in line the first week, and they kept coming back, and we were running out of food. So in some way, the community's word of mouth was pretty effective, more than we could be. Internally, of course, through entities like University Counseling Services, Student Health, even our VCU Police Department. We had an officer who had a radio program, who would encourage students to use the pantry. We tried to really work culturally to blend it into the university's calendar through homecoming, alumni week, all those key events to get key parts of our community engaged in supporting the pantry and educating the folks about the pantry. And what we discovered is our biggest challenge instantly became sustainability of the pantry because the use was higher than we could have ever imagined in the beginning. I know we can do, and we're trying to do a better job of broadcasting it, but it seems like we struggle with sustaining the pantry over the years.
Thank you. Next question. What are some of the obstacles, like sustainability, I'm sure, associated with assisting students with food insecurity on campus? Aside from cost, resources, time management, if you could speak to other challenges that may not have been mentioned either today or even during yesterday's panels as well.
I think the day-to-day of operating any type of resource, like a pantry, is just very time-consuming for everybody involved. Whether you're coordinating it or coordinating people to coordinate it, it takes just a lot of time to coordinate people and organize volunteers, and then the training of people. You want to train them not only to do the task of how to operate a food pantry, but you also need to train them on how to have good customer service and how to be open and accepting. And it's just a lot of time. And I think we're getting better at having a conversation around food insecurities and what it means. But I still think we need to be mindful that this may not be common language to a lot of our parents and alum and the folks we work with. So we've started doing something at the end of each semester. We see that a lot of our students come with vehicles full of food from like Sam's Club and Costco, like these huge packs of like, God, ramen and like K-cups, and like you could fill rooms with all of the extra food they have at the end of the semesters. So instead of having students throw it all away, we have pantries, or we have a food drive set up at the end of each semester, and we call it Pitch It to the Pantry, and we're very strategic on where we put our donation bins, and parents actually see that more than students. So we've started actually getting monetary donations from this, in addition to about 1,500 pounds of food in the spring semester and about 2,200 pounds of food in the fall. So that actually keeps our pantry going most of the summer. And that's after we take out all the expired and opened stuff.
I like that, pitch it to the pantry. Some of the obstacles we have, and it's just like, it's been said before, this is a very labor-intensive kind of process. It's absolutely critical and essential for our campus. We have a very high number of students, a large number of students that are low socioeconomic status, that are first-generation students, so it is absolutely critical that we do what we can to support them to be successful while they're there. But it costs. Unfortunately, right now, it's all in the student health clinic budget, but that's what we do. I think one of the other challenges, we actually get food supplies from at least 5 different sources. And each area has its own sets of rules and regulations and guidelines, and in addition to doing Serve Safe and everything else, and making sure that I'm not spending clinic dollars on certain things, and even though we don't receive any state dollars, but it's still a matter of managing all of that. So I think that's probably that's probably the biggest challenge for us.
And for us, it's definitely, as you said, the logistics. We have a farm that's about 45 minutes away from campus that offered us fresh organic fruit and vegetables from May to early November of every year. But we have to pick it up, bring it back, figure out how to keep it fresh on days the pantry's not open, give it out, and figure out what to do with whatever students don't take. And then what was offered sometimes were items that students didn't know what to do with. So, and that's for myself as well, that, okay, you got a huge crate of zucchini, and we've had stuff on the shelf. What do you do with this to make a meal? So we're having to come up with menu options. So definitely the logistics of running that kind of a volunteer operation. The second piece that's been a challenge for us is the risk of the success. And what I mean by that is we'd had all types of food drives, massive amounts of stuff coming in. And when the shelves are empty, the assumption that we're good because we just had a big food drive and stuff is coming in, but I can look at the stuff that's come in and sort of project when that's going to go out and how quickly the shelves will be empty again. And then also knowing that the pantry, while helpful, is not a permanent sustainable model. So it feels like a bit of a Band-Aid approach. We're addressing food insecurity, but there are underlying issues that need to be addressed beyond us trying to sustain our pantry every week. We see students who come in weekly to use the pantry, so now we've had to focus on, hey, wait a minute, if I'm seeing you every week, perhaps we should get you to social services to see if you qualify for SNAP benefits. So we're having to go beyond just simply food on the shelf and taking a holistic, bigger approach that I'm seeing the same students over and over again. This model is not sustainable for you while we have new students coming in and we got to re-educate new students about what a pantry is, what food security insecurity is, and that feeling that that's not sustainable. So it's great to have a big food drive, but how do we get to a place where we have solutions and not just these constant drives to keep food on the shelf? And that's been, to me personally, the biggest challenge.
And another challenge, what Terrence was saying is that, okay, if the students don't have the food, they may or may not have the means to prepare it.
Absolutely.
So when we started this endeavor, we were food focused, and we kept saying there's so many other issues around food insecurities, but we're going to focus on food. Okay, that's great, but how can you give the students food and they can't prepare it? Right. Like I need dishes, I need pots and pans, I need a can opener. So there's so many different things, and that's been very challenging. And I feel as though it changes. I'm not going to say weekly, but very fast. Like sometimes monthly, I'm like, that's something new.
Yeah, I've got a couple of things too. We have to educate the staff so that it doesn't matter if the student misused their food, their funds. So what they bought a new outfit for homecoming. Bottom line is they still didn't have the food that they needed to sustain themselves and to do well in school. So it's like we will work with that student, and if we see them repeatedly, you take that next step, you sort of go get a bigger picture of what's going on for them and find out if there are other resources that can support them better, more longer term. But at the same time, you still assist and you don't judge based on that. At 18, at 21, we all do stupid things. So we have to get past that. And then also, educate the staff about that also, because they'll go, oh, well, they just did X, Y, or Z. And you don't want that. Also, helping students learn how to prepare food, how to store food, giving them recipes and things like that. And that's all part of that process. So it's not just putting food in their hands. There is a much bigger picture to it.
We have some questions from the streaming.
What certifications and/or facilities did you need to secure to provide perishable foods? This is a huge barrier at many institutions.
We only offer non-perishable foods, which is hard, right? Because nobody can be food secure on perishable foods alone. We are limited by two things right now. So our license right now is only non-perishable foods, and we physically do not have the space to offer perishable foods because of the refrigeration needed. We have about 100 square feet, our pantry is. It's not accessible at all. It's down these very skinny stairs. Our students refer to it as, it's a terrible location. They refer to it as the walk of shame because there's be no reason why you'd have to go down there unless you were going to the pantry. So I think it's every month we talk about a different location and where can we go, and it's not a good location.
I'm trying to think. Can you repeat the question?
What certifications and/or facilities did you need to secure to provide perishable foods?
When we started to talk about perishable foods, we had the dry goods also, and we're like, oh, we need milk, we need eggs, we want a lot of other things for students. We brought in our state health department and said, hey, this is what we'd like to do. And then I threw something else in. Oh, by the way, yeah, we want to do a demo kitchen also. That's still to come, but we just started right from the state to find out what it was we needed. Fortunately, like I said, we don't operate off of state funds, so we were able to use some funds to purchase a commercial refrigerator and freezer. So that allows us to keep some. It's not enough for what we're managing right now. So we work very hard to try to distribute any perishables that day. So that we can get it in and out. We have been able to more recently get some frozen foods, and those will store much longer. And like I said, we have the commercial freezer, so we're able to keep it. But we're constantly improving, and we have plans to move into a new facility. So I have great plans and all the different. I've already told them I need good electrical because you're going to be pulling in a lot of power on the refrigerators and freezers that I want to put in.
And we, as I said in the beginning, we were fortunate to pull in our facilities departments because they knew what the department on campus was about to get a new refrigerator and they didn't need the old one. And we had that transferred over to RamPantry, and we used those up until dining services came in and provided us with some of the refrigerating systems that we use. And then it's back to the logistical piece too. We had to really look from week to week what the farm was offering and try to pinpoint strategically when we would get that stuff into the pantry to get it out if it was something that was going to go bad. But it was also helpful for us because to reinforce our external community partners, for instance, we would say to a local church, we have massive amount of kale. It's not going to last that long. The pantry is open in 2 days. Can you use this for your soup kitchen? And the church would step in and use it. We get massive amounts of potatoes. We know that's going to hold up. But what it did is reinforce that external partnership with that church so that when we asked them to do a food drive for the pantry, they backed us. But we also showed that our mission at VCU is community engagement also and being effective in Central Virginia. So we were able to go back to our administrators saying not only are we meeting an internal need, we're being true to the mission of the institution about supporting a local church that's helping the community outside of VCU. Which sort of reinforces what we say we're about in the first place. And so that was helpful to get some of the resources that we needed, because even within those churches, we'd have someone who would volunteer to say, hey, I know how to create shelves, or I have special skills and abilities. What is it that you need at the pantry? I'll come over and provide that resource as well.
Do you ask your alumni to give back to your food pantry?
We
Yes.
definitely do.
I'm sorry. We now have a Donate Now button on our main page of our pantry. We need to remove the barriers to let them donate. So, yep, Alumni Week, we ask them for donations, and yep, we like to ask them for donations.
I have one staff member that is great about saying, are you an alumni? Doesn't matter where she sees them. We also staff our first aid station at the football games, our home football games, and everybody that stops by, are you an alumni? And then she tells them about the food pantry and asks them to contribute and to support it. We also are working with our foundation office in order to kind of come up with some plans to make it more sustainable over time. We don't have that Donate Now button, but it's a good idea, so I'm going to tell them about it.
Good button.
So.
And we as well, and that's been one of the awesome things about the pantry at VCU, because we were able, working through foundation, to set up a tax-deductible donation account for the pantry. And what we were told is that there are alum at VCU, and this is probably true across the country, who want to give back, but they want to give back meaningfully.
Yes.
So when we're able to say, here's data from RamPantry, first-generation college students, non-traditional students, military students who are food insecure, your donation will have an immediate impact on their academic performance and their success in them graduating on time. It opens up, I think, a floodgate of potential support. And also, you know, for our alumni folks as well, because from their standpoint on the development side, they may have, for instance, a target amount of how many millions they want to make. So it's not that they're not committed to anything, but if they see that we're meeting a need that resonates with alums, they help to promote us as well, because it helps them meet whatever dollar goal that they have for the year. So we've taken full advantage of it. Well, I don't think we're where we want to be now, but it's my dream that we would do it anymore as much as we can at VCU on the MCV campus, for instance. We have doctors that donate every year to Feed More. And we have a deck, they call it the D deck. The doctors are giving money, writing big checks as they leave in and out of the driving deck. And, you know, our dream, or my dream, is to see those doctors writing those huge checks to sustain RamPantry, because we know within the individual donor base, there are individual donors that are able to personally give us the resources to sustain our pantry and personally have the skill set to do the development work we need to have done to get in resources through grants and additional public funding that we don't have the skill set or ability to do. So to me, it's like a windfall in terms of sustainability outside of government, what it can do about SNAP benefits and some of that other stuff to sustain it financially through alumni development and alumni relations. And our folks at VCU have done an awesome job of trying to support what we do.
I think it's important to think about repeat donors too
Yes.
with your alum.
Yeah.
We write handwritten thank yous, and we invite them to look at our webpage where we take some pictures of some of the events that we have going on, and then we encourage them to donate in different ways, because they can't always be there to hear that story. But I think if you try to just spend some time thanking them, you'll get a lot more repeat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just add really quickly to that alum or to those stories. I give to my alma mater, and when I do, I like when I get, they send a testimonial from a student talking to me about what my contribution has done for their life, and it just makes you as a donor want to give back even more as an alum, because you see that immediate effect, if you will. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a really good idea, not just the notes, but having your students be able to talk back to them and say, you know, even if it's a short 30-second video that they could upload on YouTube. I think it really helps.
And last question, and this harkens back to earlier in the conversation. Who pays for the produce from the farmer's market? Is it donated?
The food products that we get from the state farmers market are free. The state of Florida has what they call farm share, and it's a lot of the produce and vegetables and things that they get that aren't as commercially marketable. So they're donated and distributed to a number of different community agencies and food pantries at no cost. Our cost is basically fuel and labor, because we have to take a huge, like I said, we have a huge box truck. We drive it 40 minutes to the next county, pick it up, bring it back, and then we have to package it basically before we can distribute it.
And on our end, we had an agreement with the farm that, you know, is again 45 minutes out, or was at the time 45 minutes away from city of Richmond. It had numerous community partners outside of VCU that wanted to support summer food programs, local churches with food pantries, but the farm lacked the staff and the transportation to do it. So we were able to get internal support from VCU to use our vans to go to the market to bring the resource back to distribute to that farm's internal partners, while also making a stop at RamPantry to provide it to our students. So one of the things we really press is to create sort of a win-win situation. We have staff that are able to do up to 20 community hours a year. We have van transportation access. You have the produce. You want to meet the needs here in Central Virginia. We want to meet the needs at VCU, and it fits our mission to want to serve the community as well. And that opened the door for us to get all the produce for free to bring back into the city and to distribute all the way up to VCU at RamPantry.
We currently don't partner with any farmers markets. We're in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, so our growing season is very, very short. So we just recently got a pantry in our downtown area, or what am I looking for? Farmers market in our downtown area. They actually run out of food all the time, usually within an hour, and it's scheduled to go about 3 hours. So there's actually someone from about 8 hours away that will bring a whole truckload of food up for the start of the year for the farmers market, because our growing season is so short. We don't have the resources to.
And another question, or our final question for the day, is what is the best way that a campus initiative, such as what you all do, can go about finding funding for its projects? How about finding consistent year-to-year funding? And I know that we have had numerous discussions in the summit about sustainability with respect to food insecurity, food pantries, as well as housing insecurity. So if you could speak to those.
I think you need to track as much as you can, even if you don't need the funding right now in the immediate. I think you need to be able to tell that story when you do need funding, and that may look different at any different time. So, and depending on who the funder is, whether it's a private donor, whether it's a foundation. So I think you need to track as much as you can. We currently have our students tap their university ID anywhere they go to use any of our resources. I think it's a thin line because some students are like, I don't want to be tracked, it's invasive, why are you tracking me? But at the same time, we need to make sure that this is a sustainable effort so we can keep serving our students. So I don't think it's an easy answer, but I think you do need to track as much as you can.
It's a moving target. We're constantly, seeking funds, and right now don't have a secure, consistent plan for that, but we continue to work on it. We're hoping that our plans with the foundation will work out to be that.
And we've had to hit it from several angles at the same time. For instance, through our development office, we apply for grants for the pantry, but we also have tried to work with dining services and other entities to get leftover food to the pantry. We try to work with, for instance, the School of Social Work and places where they have the skill set to apply for grants, to use our data to get funding. But we've also added a new component over the last year or so, realizing that food pantry is not sustainable, so legislatively we need to look at laws in the state of Virginia and other places. Access to SNAP benefits, funding for education, acknowledging that we have huge shifts in the culture, that there was this old view that you went to college, your parents wrote you a check to pay for it. Now we have kids in college, parents at home hoping the kids will succeed to raise a family's boat. So from that standpoint, our focus, or I hope our focus, is moving more into the legislative arena and looking at changes to SNAP benefits, changes to the requirement, and funding for education, so that we don't have institutions simply becoming social work entities, filling in a gap where voters and taxpayers are being shortchanged because we have students coming in who want to succeed but can't because of the rising cost of education and housing and the lack of health care, child care, and transportation. So from that standpoint, it's pushing the discussion out beyond the pantry into those places where we do need to have open, honest discussions about how to succeed in this country, and that means some political legislative changes.
Thank you. I know that we have Slido and we're asking questions, but does anyone in the audience have questions for the panel? Oh my goodness. And first, and then your staff in the back.
I was just wondering if any of these services are available for university staff as well.
Ours are open to all students, faculty, and staff, yes. And they are utilized by all.
I was going to say, our pantry, we hold only for students. However, our pharmacy operation, which has the fresh foods and stuff, the students are able to come at 12 o'clock, and this is open to faculty and staff at 1. So we still prioritize students, but we have a large population of staff that don't make the same salary as our directors and vice presidents. So, yeah, food insecurity runs all the way through.
Absolutely. And we, maybe about 2 years ago, opened hours to faculty and staff as well, as you said, looking at adjunct faculty and how much they make. And we had to shut the door immediately because one of the things that we discovered, for instance, we had contractors on campus who were not directly employed by the university but had university IDs, and our system was it was an honor system. So if you had an ID and you said you were food insecure, you came in, you filled out a form, you got food. And the volume of contract workers working on campus who weren't technically university employees was so high, it depleted our resources immediately, so we had to close that door and start to direct people to social services within their own personal community.
Mine is not really a question. We coupon 365 days out the year to help our pantry. We buy 70 papers a week. We teach our students, we teach a coupon class so that those that get SNAP, their money will go farther. So it's not a question, it's just a suggestion. If you know couponers, they can also donate to your pantries. That would help you a lot.
Anyone else with a question? Sure.
Not really a question, but a statement. Our pantry was contacted by, I guess, like reality TV show, like Extreme Couponers. You made me think of it. And they wanted to do some kind of program where the Extreme Couponers would donate all these food or items to our pantry. It never actually panned out. But if anyone is interested, that may be a non-traditional avenue you want to explore. I may be getting all the names wrong, but I think there's some kind of TLC or reality show. So, hey, it's maybe worth a phone call.
You know, I want to thank the panel because they brought forth, I was taking copious notes on what you were saying, and I know it's unusual, and given how this is being, how the panel is working. But if you have any questions, please feel free to contact ACHA about this specific and get some of their ideas, really great ideas. You know, the cross-campus collaborations with student conduct, I'd never thought of that. Facilities, you know, just trying to reach out to make sure students, and certainly the conversation about bringing it larger than just food insecurity and food pantries, but something much broader, because we know that it is a bigger picture, it is a bigger issue than what we are talking about, and it can't, you know, a food pantry cannot just be the Band-Aid. With that, I want to thank all of you, the panel, for participating, and certainly the audience for participating, and I believe we are now going to break for lunch. Now or shortly. Thank you.